Am I the a-hole for not being the nicest about my not father having cancer? Plus updates. Original post. I'm Sophie, 22 female, and I have two older half-brothers, 25 and 27. The man who had been raising me as my father, 54 male, found out I was not his biological child, my two older brothers are, when I was 7, and promptly abandoned me and divorced my mom. He was very involved up until this point and was actually in the middle of coaching my soccer team when it happened. He abandoned that too, and the assistant coach had to take over. Anyways, he ended up paying child support to my mom for me, probably because he was the breadwinner. And him leaving my mom left us two in pretty dire financial circumstances. I was also yanked out of the private school my brothers and I attended. He remarried a few years later to a woman with a daughter a year younger than me and promptly did everything with her that he used to do with me. Rough for them. Sophomore year of high school, some organization was hosting a father-daughter dance in our school gym while I was around campus with some friends, can't remember, and we vandalized the fancy car he pulled up in. Not something I'm proud of, but I'm mentioning it here because although I paid for half the cost of repairs, he graciously paid the other half and decided not to press charges. Anyways, now the old man has cancer. Both brothers and stepdaughter are out of state with the school, and his wife has early arthritis or something, not really sure. He calls my mom and asks her if either of us could drive him to and from chemotherapy. We were in the car and he was on speaker. So I told him no, that's something family does, and has made it very clear he doesn't see either of us as family, and hung up. Mom is doing things like bringing casseroles and driving him. I don't try to stop her, but I don't help her either. But she has recently started to try and guilt me into it, saying he always paid child support. To which I said the amount of money he lost on that was about as impactful as a fart in the wind for all money bags. He did press charges about his car, to which I said, great, he did one nice thing for me, so he can get one casserole or one car ride. Now my siblings and his stepdaughter have all flown in, and my brother says he, not dad, really needs to speak to me. I had to tell him that if he has something to say to me, I don't want to hear it, and if he writes me a letter, I'm not opening it. I said I was sorry for what they were going through, but that has made it very clear I'm not his family, and so I don't want them asking me for things they would ask of family. However, they're struggling, and the more they ask for help, the more my patience wears thin, and the more insensitive my rejections get. My mother recently talked with me about being the bigger person. Am I the a-hole? Also, please don't leave comments like, the real a-hole is your mom for cheating and committing paternity fraud. Like, thanks for that one, Sherlock. And my mother and I have reconciled. Edit, my mom is pushing me to be the bigger person because our pastor says it will have a healing effect on my soul. She's very religious. The situation is more complicated than not dad being an innocent angel victim and my mom deciding to do paternity fraud for funsies. I might do a separate post or something to explain since this is anonymous anyway. While her circumstances don't excuse or justify her actions which were still wrong, having the full context made me more amenable to forgiveness. Edit/update. I have agreed to speak to him and will do so sometime this weekend. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Not a-hole. The man who had raised you as his own daughter for 7 years suddenly dumped you. It was not your fault that your mother had cheated. You loved him as your father, and he ripped away your security, your family, your lifestyle, and I'm sure a good chunk of your heart. That is not something that is easily forgiven. Maybe your mother is helping him because she still has some sort of sense of guilt, but that is not your guilt to carry. That man did you very wrong, and I wouldn't shed a tear when he died if I were you. I am sorry your brothers are suffering. It's understandable. They are worried about their father. But he has not been a father to you for 15 years, by his own choice. How much is one child supposed to take? Not only did he withdraw his love and affection, but then he made you watch as he showered that attention on another little girl who was also not his child. He seems to have no problem loving her. The hurt and trauma he has caused you is not easily gotten over. It sucks that your mom is so quick to overlook the damage that was done to you in order to try to rehabilitate herself. It's not about being the bigger person. The injustices he did to you were inflicted on a child. He had the opportunity to do right by you and chose not to. Your mom's infidelity was not your fault. The relationship you had established with him for 7 years meant nothing to him, and now he means nothing to you. And that's okay. Couldn't have put it better myself. Not a-hole. I can definitely understand why the not father would have been hurt and angry all those years ago, but he was the adult in the situation. He took out his feelings on an innocent child who loved him as a father, which is an action that's within his rights, I guess, but the current fallout is well within the expected consequences. As for the good points, well, child support is his legal obligation. And about the car vandalism, he'd have been a major a-hole if he had actually pressed charges then. Lol. OP owes him nothing. Not the a-hole. He burnt that bridge. As well as he should have. Can you imagine if someone posted in AITA, "My wife of years hid that our 7-year-old daughter isn't mine. Am I the a-hole if I leave?" 90% of the responses would be, "Not the a-hole. Get out of there. She's betrayed you and you'll never trust her again. It would be harming the daughter to stay around when you don't love her, etc." But once the bridge is burnt like you said, you can't expect help from those same people years later. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. My mother recently talked with me about being the bigger person. You are already the bigger person by choosing to forgive your mother. The way you were acting is vengeful toward your not father, but not in any way out of line. From what we know, you haven't gone out of your way to do anything harmful or manipulative. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find someone calling you an a-hole. Definitely not the a-hole. I hate that term, be the bigger person. It's always the wronged one that has to be the bigger person. As an adult to a child, he had a chance to be the bigger person. Pastor can get his church members to be the bigger person, but don't feel guilty and don't be roped in, OP. Now for the first update. Sorry for the long wait for the update. To be honest, I completely forgot I made this post in the first place. Well, he's dead. Family fessed up to all the requests for help, basically being plots to get me and him in the same room. He was in hospice care, which I mixed up with being in the hospital in my original post. He started out by basically wanting a bunch of life updates from me. Basic things like what college did I go to, what was my major, where was I working now, did I have a boyfriend, etc. He asked me if I still played soccer, and I said no, not since he left me. He looked sad and said I was really good, and I agreed. I had humored him with casual talk for about 10 minutes, but I made it clear that I wanted answers, and for the visit to be on my terms. So this was the segue into the deep stuff. I told him I had questions for him, and he agreed to answer them. 1. Did you miss me? He looked kind of offended by that, which I thought was very audacious, and said, "Of course he did." And I snapped back, "Could have freaking fooled me." And there was this awkward moment of silence, but I decided to keep going. 2. Why did he leave me? He talked about how he was betrayed by my mom, and looking at me was a reminder that he had been tricked into raising another man's child, and then I got upset. I told him, to me, I was his daughter. Maybe not on a DNA test, but here, pointing at my heart. He just got quiet and said, "You're not mine, Sophie." 3. Why wasn't I, as a person, more important than the results of the paternity test? Was I an easy child to abandon? He looked kind of shocked by this one too, but I wanted to know. He goes, "No, of course not. It has nothing to do with you." But I snapped at him to tell me the truth, that I deserve that much. And he said very bluntly, 2 kids are less stressful than 3, Sophie. So yeah, sometimes I was relieved you weren't around. Especially as a single parent, okay? But there's nothing you could have done to change or overcome the fact that you're not my child. You're the one I got tricked into raising. You weren't mine, and you still aren't. I'm sorry, Sophie. This is where the list was forgotten. And I just said, "But you treated your stepdaughter like yours, no problem." And he said it was different. I quietly asked if she was a replacement for me, and he said he wasn't going to dignify that with a response. I asked if he wasn't going to apologize. Why did he ask me here? He just said he wanted me to know I was in his will. I said, okay, I don't forgive you. He looked kind of shocked and said, what? And I just repeated, I don't forgive you. He said okay and looked really sad and added that he will pay my student loans via the will. I told him the conclusion I had come to, that forgiveness was the kind thing to do, and I wish I could have given it to him, but there was just too much hurt. He said he understood and I left. If he put you in his will, I think he does care for you, and in a way admits you are part of his life, as in you're his daughter. But he doesn't want to admit it because he was tricked. As for that stepdaughter, again he married his new wife knowing she had a daughter, not tricked or anything. I'm not saying what he did was correct or anything. He is messed up. In a way, he wanted to save face. I'm not condoning what he did. I'm also a female, but just looking at his deathbed situation in an unbiased standpoint. He abandoned a 7-year-old child that he had raised into infancy and loved because of DNA. Divorce her mom for cheating? Of course. Completely turn his back on her and expect forgiveness at the end of his life? Nah. Like I said, I am not condoning what he did. He did this to her. She's innocent and a victim, out of spite, due to her mom cheating. I'm stating a reason why he put her in his will. He wanted to save his face from embarrassment, but have love for her, but can't love her due to his ego. It's hard to explain. In the end, it's all because of how he treated a mom. This led to his downfall. Oh, honey, I really wish I could give you a hug. I'm estranged from my birth father and mother, raised in foster care, and after I was 24 to 25-ish, they separately both tried to reach out to me. I wrote them both letter that stated they threw me away like trash, and so are no longer my parents. I'm now 35 and still haven't talked to them. One left for drugs and his new fam and then jail multiple times, and my mom left us for chomo. Honestly, you may feel sad now, but your mom sounds like a G. She may have made mistakes like we all do, but at least she tried to fix them and always seemed to have your best interests at heart. I shared a bit of my life with you, so you know that while it may still hurt, your true family are those who do not toss you out like trash. You did not owe him anything, and even though you were not nice in the last conversation with him, it was still a lot more than he deserved. I also have a 16-year-old stepdaughter whom I treat exactly like my own kids. Blood does not make family. I hope you got closure and you find your peace. Second update. A lot of context and info had to be cut out to fit the character limits on the forum, so I thought I would answer them. My mom is most frequently asked about, and I understand why people are the most curious about her. I will try to answer everything as best I can. Questions about my mom. Why did you forgive her, or why are you mad that you're not dad and not her? This is going to be a very long answer, so buckle up. The first part is that I, as a 7-year-old, hadn't been given the talk yet, and simply didn't have the capacity to understand what was going on. I just knew that mom was kissing someone else, and so she and dad were breaking up, but didn't grasp why or how that meant he wasn't my dad anymore. So, as many of you in the comments suggested, for a while, it was just me clinging to the only parent and stability I had. Dad left, mom didn't. It was simple. Middle school was when I started to process things, and crap really hit the fan. I hated my mom for a period there, and I mean hated her. I accused her of ruining my life, told her I hated her, and a lot of other nasty things that I really regret. Our relationship was really rocky and strained, but we love each other a lot. And I'm just going to paste one of my earlier comments here because I think it summarizes things pretty well. I mean, it's easier because she has A, fully owned up to her actions, B, explicitly apologized and asked for forgiveness without expecting it as her due, and C, worked her butt off for the last 15 years to try and make up for some of the fallout. It's way easier to forgive someone who shows you through their actions how sorry they are. She taught me how to drive. She spent hours watching YouTube videos so she could help me with algebra homework. When I was drunk, alone, and scared at my first high school party, she was the one I called, and it picked me up no questions asked. My life with her wasn't easy, but I wouldn't trade her for any of my friends' parents. Who would you find easier to forgive? Someone who did you the biggest wrong but had a genuine regret and tried to make reparations? Or someone who hurt you slightly less and never reached out once? Also, I read a Scarlet Letter in high school and it made me reflect on my mother. And at a certain point, I was just like, how much penitence is enough? Does she just deserve to be miserable for the rest of her life? When will it be enough? I know that for some people, there's no amount of suffering she could go through that would make you forgive her or have a favorable opinion about her, and that's okay. She's my mom, not yours. Also, she's generally a nice person and much easier to be around than not dad. What were the extenuating circumstances you alluded to? This also factored a lot in my decision to mend our relationship and sympathize with her. When my dad had my oldest brother Andrew, he was 27 and my mom was 20. Their timeline is, met her when she was 17, started dating at 18, dated through freshman year of college. He pressured her to drop out of school the whole way through, and she finally drops and marries him halfway through sophomore year at age 20. Gives birth right before her 21st birthday. Not dad isolated her from friends, has her doing all the housework and childcare. And I mean like all of it. When I said he was involved as a dad, I should have clarified in the fun stuff. As a kid, you can't really tell the difference between a fun parent and a good parent. She has also confessed she suffered from PPD and never totally lost the weight from her pregnancies, which not dad liked to joke about publicly and berate her for privately. Yes, he paid for everything, but that was about it. And yes, I understand. Explanation but not excuse. But the portrait some of you are painting is, she was a greedy, freeloading hoe who deceived her perfect, loving provider husband and committed paternity fraud because she was evil and it was fun. The truth is that she was miserable and tried to remedy that by being with my bio father, which I understand is still not okay, and then was terrified to leave her even fess up. Because he had all the money and she wanted a good life for me, even if she had to lie to get me there. She says she was on the verge of confessing and called her mother, my grandma, to ask if she and I could potentially stay with her, and grandma was drunk when she picked up the phone. Grandma herself and her relationship with my mother is a whole different can of worms. Grandma was a violent alcoholic who lost and regained custody of my mom a lot, which led to her being assaulted by her foster father from ages 12 to 13, and there was a lot of resentment and hurt between them. But my mom said basically that grandma was her last resort, and when she heard her slurring her words over the phone, she lost all courage and decided to stick it through to the bitter end with my not dad. The thing that got me was when people kept saying, imagine if the person you loved betrayed you like this. Put yourself in the father's shoes. And the thing is, I don't think he loved her. I don't even think he really liked her. The truth about my mom is that she was a very hurt person who desperately wanted some affection and comfort. And my bio dad gave it to her when her husband wouldn't. Yes, it was wrong obviously, but my heart goes out to her in those circumstances. When she was my age, she had a toddler and a newborn, and was essentially a single mom, and I couldn't imagine being in her shoes. Her childhood gave her this almost desperate attachment pattern. Her foster situations never lasted longer than a few years, and around the time I was conceived, her marriage had lasted longer than any living situation she had ever had. And she confessed she felt this need to sabotage it, run from it, or change it, because change is all she knew. Once again, this is not an excuse. Just me explaining there was more going on in her psyche than, let me do this for a laugh. Obviously, I condemn her actions, but I get it. I feel for her. She's my mom. Am I the a-hole for thinking about divorce? Plus updates. Original post. I, 34 female, have been with Ken, 37 male since I was 16. We met in school as he was my brother's friend. We have been married for 10 years. Have a 2-year-old son and one on the way. Ken has always been my person, the person who you can't picture life without, and I honestly can't remember not loving him. I grew up with him, he's my everything. Unfortunately, Ken has this issue where it takes in everyone else's feelings like to heart. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, however, recently his best friend of 20 years has just found out that his wife has been cheating on him and none of the children are his. Obviously, his friend is devastated and is staying in our guest room. He's a nice guy, just life has him down right now. He started a process of divorce. The more time Ken spends with his friend, the more depressed he's become and distant. Our mornings used to start where I would wake up at 6 a.m. with our son make breakfast. Then about 8 a.m. I could wake Ken up with a coffee and some breakfast before going to drop little one off at nursery and go to work. Ken works from home most days, only going into the office on a Monday. So I'd give him his coffee, he'd give me a kiss, and then I'd go off in my happy little way. Then I'd finish work, get our son, and go home where Ken would be making tea. I'd clean up after, whilst he was bathing our son and putting him to bed. I thought this was life. It might sound boring to some, but it was my life, and I loved it. Our house was filled with love. We would spend our nights cuddling, talking, watching a movie. Date night once a month. We would take our son out together on a Saturday and then Sunday go visit family or have friends over. You get the picture. I'm rambling. Sorry. Anyway, for the past month, things have been changing. Ken is more depressed. I make him a coffee in the morning and just get a mumbled thanks. I'd come home from work, and a friend and him would be in the living room watching sports. I'm now making tea, bathing our son, and neither of them will barely talk to me. We don't go out on the weekend together, and I feel like a single parent. I've tried to talk to Ken about it all, but I get one-worded answers. Then it stays up till about 1 a.m., which I know is not super late, but I'm passed out by then. I'm exhausted, alone, and pregnant. I miss my husband. Yesterday I came home from work, and you know when something just doesn't feel right? Well, I went to find Ken to see what he was doing, as his friend wasn't in the house but Ken's car was. He was in his office looking up DNA kits for our son. I asked him why, and his response was, well, I just want to make sure all the kids are mine before I continue looking after them, as I'm not a free childcare. This broke me. When I say I'm devastated, it's an understatement. But if he thinks that I've cheated on him, then surely the trust is gone. Is there any going back? Am I just being pregnant and hormonal? Would I be extreme for looking for a divorce? I could put the papers in the envelope with the results from the DNA test. I think I'm gonna go cry in bed now. Had to take the day off work because I feel like I've just been gut punched. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. I think the friend needs to move out. Maybe go to couples therapy together and go from there. I'm so sorry you're going through this. I don't think you are just being pregnant and hormonal. I'd say individual therapy first. Clearly the husband has something along the lines of enmeshment issues, which needed to be fixed. Your husband's feelings are being fed from his friend. Working from home a lot disconnects you from being social, and the only social activity he gets is depression from his friend. This friend has to go, and once he does, you two can work on getting back on track the way you were. You really need to explain this to him and he should understand. These are all actions of the other person, not your husband, if that makes sense. Get through this and you two can be that much stronger. But as long as this other person is around, I feel it will only get worse. Good luck. Misery loves company. His friend is miserable and projecting his toxicity in your husband. You need to talk to his friend and ask him to leave ASAP, as he is causing issues for your own marriage, and he has your husband questioning if his son is actually his. This friend is toxic and has been whispering in your husband's ear, sabotaging your marriage and family out of bitterness from what his wife did. If your husband kicks off at you for asking his friend to leave, then serve him divorce papers with paternity test results showing the kids are his, and tell him he has lost his family because he chose to listen to his a-hole bitter friend. Not just ask him to leave, throw his stuff to the curb. He's convinced your husband you're sleeping with other people. I'd be scorched earth. It's about your honor and your peaceful marriage, but it has also cost your children the love of their father. Definitely couples counseling after you get rid of this guy, with your husband understanding this is a divorceable offense. Now for the first update. Hello Reddit. Well, after my post earlier this afternoon, I cried, then read all your lovely comments and I couldn't be more grateful. I think posting about it here really helps for some reason. Weird how telling complete strangers that I'm struggling with life seems to help. So I think after my pity party, which couldn't last long due to being a parent, I called my stepmom and dad. My mom died when I was 10. They're coming to stay with me on Friday. Crying on the phone helped, although I'm not really sure they could truly understand a word of what I was saying. I've spoken to Ken, well, more like spoke at Ken, telling him that his friend has till Thursday to leave. I'm not a monster and can't just tell him to leave at a drop of a hat. I've also told Ken he needs to leave too. Whilst, yes, I could go to my dad's house, I don't want to disrupt my little one more than needed, and all the things for my baby's here too. Especially as I'm 8 months along, it just seems stupid for me to be the one to leave. I've made it a point of not pointing out it's my house either. I'm trying to be common-sensible. I'm not 100% sure Ken listened, but I did message his sister, who is a force to be reckoned with, and she said she will make sure he's gone by Thursday night. Things I've told Ken I want is yes, he can have the DNA test, but I will be damned if I don't want to do it. He can also have one for the baby as I have nothing to hide. I know that some people have questioned why I'm so against it. Let me make something clear. I would never cheat because, as I said in my last post, Ken is, or was, I don't know, my person. He's the only man I've ever been with, so that isn't any concern of mine. I'm just hurt that he wants one because clearly he doesn't trust me. So things I want him to have the DNA tests, mainly so I can make him eat the results. Not literally, I'm just venting. I'm also going to suggest couples therapy. I already see one due to losing my mom and my little sister in a car crash when I was little. I want to suggest he sees one alone, but you can lead a horse to water but can't make him drink it. I don't want to force him to do anything he doesn't want to do. I want him to maintain contact with our son. Yes, he doesn't believe he's the father right now, but that's no reason he should neglect him as he's his, and I don't want to upset my son. Yeah, he's only 2, but still he deserves all the love from both his parents. He's done nothing wrong. Then obviously this one when he or she comes along. Still not sure about the state of my marriage, but even if divorce is what happens, I need to be able to get through to him so he can be the father he was. Am I going insane? Do I sound insane? I don't know why writing here helps so much. Thanks, Reddit. I want an update after Ken's sister rips him a new you-know-what. She's had enough. Oh yeah, he's broken. Jesus Christ, the husband just willy-nilly imploding his family based on nothing. And I feel for the friend whose entire life was upended. But I hope he realizes he's had a hand in destroying an innocent family who were helping him too. This happened to my friend, now divorced. Her husband's friend was in a terrible marriage and stayed only for his kids and is miserable. Stayed with my friend and her husband for a while. During this time, it poisoned a well and freaked her husband out. He refused to have babies because he was so afraid of becoming like his friend. Then everything was, my friend this, my friend has this, and he up and packed and left her and was like, I don't know if I can do this. No problems at all, planning to have kids, been together for a long time. Just was with his friend, and didn't want to be in a situation even though they have been planning for a family, and were always happy until that guy came around. Super sad. Your friend dodged a bullet. Scratch that, she dodged a missile. A well-forged piece of metal doesn't snap the first time it's tested. The man wasn't trustworthy and unable to give trust. Why would your friend want to stay married to and have children with someone flaky like that? Of course, the process of divorce is painful, but it was a blessing she found out when she did, rather than years later. I have a good friend who wasn't so fortunate. By the time she found out what a worm her husband was, she was almost past the age of having kids. I actually grew up with him and was his friend, but I don't speak to him after the way he acted, and she and I are still good friends. She doesn't have any kids and she really wanted to be a mom. She gave him her youth, and he squandered it by doing a bunch of dishonorable things I won't detail here. I hope your friend finds an emotionally mature and healthy guy, gets married again, and has the family she wants. Second update. Following my 2 other posts, I will answer some questions. Yes, it is my house. It was left to me when my mom died. I've lived here all my life. I didn't move out because I have a child and one on the way, so why should I be the one to leave? I get that some people believe I was the a-hole for asking him to leave, but as I was heavily pregnant, have a toddler, and it's my house, I wasn't about to leave. Yes, he could have stayed, but have you tried living with someone who just wants to argue or just not talk? I'd prefer my child not to live in that environment, thank you. At the end of the day, I'm a mother first, and a wife second. If you think that's harsh, then I don't know what to tell you. My children come first, end of. Well, Ken's friend did leave the day I told him he had till Thursday. He wasn't happy about it and shouted some insults at me, which was amazing. Ken's sister came and picked up Ken. I wish I could tell you what she said, but she didn't say anything in front of me. Just kept giving Ken death stares. We did get a DNA test for a little one and Ken is the father, obviously. Ken somehow thinks I've intercepted the results even though I wasn't the one that did it. I wasn't the one that got handed the results, etc., so he's clearly lost his mind. My dad came over and whilst I was making tea, my waters broke. My little girl is here. She's healthy and happy. She was 9 pounds 8 ounces, so no concern of anything with her. I'm now a mom of 2. I'm home now and Ken has been able to see his baby girl, although as she's not had a DNA test, he disagrees with her being his because his family doesn't have many girls. Yet he has a sister, so I just rolled my eyes. I don't really know where to go from here. Ken is refusing therapy. He says there's nothing wrong with him or his brain. I beg to differ. He wants to get another DNA test for our boy but won't tell me when or where so I can't interfere. Maybe one day he will come to his senses. My dad and stepmom are staying with me for a while to help me with the babies. I'd like to say I'm okay, but honestly my emotions are all over the show. I don't know which way is up. Ken's sister visits the babies and we have an unspoken rule that we don't speak about Ken, apart from when our son asks about him. I wish it was the kind of update where he got the results, seen how much of an idiot he's been, and we move on, but sadly that's not the case. I can't dwell on it too much. Just take things one day at a time. I do miss my person and worry that he's missing out on his baby girl's life already, which if I think about too much, I will just sit and cry. But I don't have time for that. As always, thanks for listening to my rant. I might update if anything else happens in my life. Right now, I'm still left wondering if I'm doing the right thing here. Is there anything I could do differently? Why are my kids so hard for him to accept all of a sudden? Now for more advice before the last update. I think he's either projecting or having a mental breakdown. It's gotta be one or the other. And tell his sister to tell him to get help or it's over. And make it clear that if he doesn't go to therapy/counseling or whatever, that a divorce is imminent. I'm leaning towards it being a total mental breakdown and his friend egged it on. I can't imagine what would cause such a sudden switch in personality otherwise. I think he is now in denial because he wants to not be the father. Otherwise, he screwed up his whole life for nothing. And that would be more dangerous to him than being depressed because his wife cheated, but at least be validated. But also, is it possible to have DNA results in 4 days? Yes, if you're just wanting at-home DNA testing and it isn't for a court case, etc. Private companies can do it in 3 to 5 days. Most likely he's projecting. Every thief thinks that others are of his condition. Another thing, if he uses the thing about girls, attack with it. The next time he says that there are no girls in his family or many girls, tell him that in that case, his mother cheated on his father, or he thinks that his sister was brought by the stork. Do whatever is necessary legally to ensure daddy is supporting the kids financially. Do not let him off the hook. Now for the last update. Hello again, Reddit. Things have been bizarre, but now I have closure. I know what's happened to my marriage. I know what scum Ken really is. He's not my person and never truly was. So now I just want to divorce him, cut my losses, and move on with my life. I'm still at home with my babies settling into motherhood. My dad and stepmom are still here, but they will be leaving soon once I'm more emotionally stable. To say I'm okay would be a lie, but now I know what I need to do. I have some sort of closure with Ken. I know what happened with him and I know that is not my fault. Turns out Ken was having an affair and has a baby on the way. Even typing that makes me want to throw up. I found this out when a visibly pregnant lady just knocked on my door and asked me when I would be leaving the house as it's Ken's house. When I say this confused the crap out of me, I mean it. I talked to this woman for a while to try to work out what she was talking about. It turns out that she's Ken's side piece. Well, technically in her head, she's his fiancé. A month ago, Ken got down on one knee and proposed her in my freaking kitchen. Classy, right? So they have been seeing each other for a while. She's having his baby. She believes I'm the ex-wife who Ken is letting stay in his house till I get on my feet. We apparently broke up a few years ago, and none of my kids are Ken's. When I go to work in the mornings, Ken goes to her house and works from there. They were waiting for marriage to move in together. How are you trying to marry someone when you are already married? Freaking weirdo. I asked for proof of all this. She has pictures of them together. Apparently, she has a lonely fans account that they make content together. Vomit. I told her we are still married and explained everything to her. I'm not sure what she's going to do, but hey, not my circus, not my monkey. Now I want a divorce. Is it true that once you talk to a solicitor about divorce, they can't represent the person you divorce? I want to go around our town and meet with as many solicitors as possible as the first hour is free, so that he has a very hard time getting representation? Is that too petty? The house is in my name only and is protected, so there is no way he can take it. I have all my money, and we do have a joint account, but that's just what we put our share of household bills in. I haven't spoken directly with Ken. His family have completely cut him off and has been kicked out of his sister's house. All those people that was concerned about him having tumor or something wrong with his brain, I really don't think that's the case. I think his actions just caught up to him as his lies were going to come out once his baby was born. I think that's what happened. He got backed into a corner and tried to fight his way out. Through divorce process, I will get the court to do DNA testing so he has proof for both, even if it chooses to not believe it. I'm mentally exhausted from all of this and sat wondering how I didn't notice. Might have to go for an eye test. But honestly, would I be so wrong for just making his life as difficult as possible to get legal advice, or is that too far? I want him to suffer. Everyone knows that family law judges love it when you deliberately complicate the process out of spite for your soon-to-be ex. It's basically their favorite thing. It's also just a bad idea, even if you don't take that into account. But yes, this is an easy way to tick off a judge. OP wants to be divorced at this point. Make it so that ex can't find representation in the area just makes the divorce take longer and cost more money. It may make sense as a strategy to block your ex from one or two particular attorneys/firms, though I won't comment on the ethics or morality of doing that, but it doesn't make any sense to try and block them from everyone. This is like the 10th story where the affair partner shows up to take the house that isn't even the cheaters to begin with. I used to own a house that I let my friends, or friends of friends, rent rooms from me while I also lived there. Some stayed for a year, some only months. Multiple people would lie to whoever they were dating at a time and tell them they owned a place. Blew my mind when it happened the first time. By the third and fourth time, I wasn't even fazed by it. For real, it's weird how people have this compulsion to lie about owning a home. I bought a house, and my now ex-boyfriend moved in with me. His credit was terrible and we couldn't get an apartment together, so I decided if I was going to be liable for everything, then I would buy. After I broke up with him and kicked him out, a friend/coworker came to me and was clearly struggling to tell me something. Her friend's boyfriend worked with my boyfriend, and my boyfriend had been telling people he bought my house. My friend's friend quickly corrected things, but it was telling that dropping the boyfriend was the right move on my end. They lie about saving for a home too. When I was single and dating, there were so many dudes in their late 20s who lived with their parents, but were doing so to save up for a house. The simple question, so what is your timeline, usually got a glassy-eyed stare. I just stopped agreeing to date anyone who still lived with their mother at that point. Ugh. Update. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex-boyfriend that he deserves to be alone and using his sterility against him? Original post. I, 33 female, had been with my ex-boyfriend, 34 male, for almost 10 years. He was my first love, and I can't describe how much I loved him. We have known each other since primary school. We became friends immediately. We really enjoyed each other's company because we shared the same sense of humor and beliefs. We fell in love and started dating at 19. We live both in Europe, but he is from a different country. His family is very conservative, and they never approved of our relationship. They wanted him to date a girl from their culture. I tried everything to please them. I learned his mother language, and I respected his family, and never said a bad word to them. We even have the same religion. I did not convert for him. I was born in the same religion. His parents even told me that I'm a nice girl. But I'm simply from the wrong culture, and they would lose face if he would marry me. My ex always had my back, as well as his sister. She was the only one who was welcoming towards me. He told his parents that I'm the love of his life, and he is going to either marry me or not at all. Apart from the problems with his family, we had a great relationship. We were each other's first relationship, and we also had our first time together. Of course we fought, like every couple, but just about silly things. We were really compatible, and he simply was my soulmate, or so I thought. This makes the following even more devastating. About 5 years ago, he suddenly broke up with me. The breakup came out of the blue, and I didn't expect it. He told me that his parents found him a wife from his culture, and he accepted to marry her. They already met and settled on a date for the engagement. He told me that he loved me, but his parents would never accept me since it had already been 10 years, and says he didn't want to waste more time and start a family. We waited for his parents' blessing, since we didn't want to welcome a child into this mess. After that, he blocked me and my family and friends and everything. I tried to reach his sister, but she had blocked me too. He and his family moved into a different city, and I was left behind with so many questions nobody could answer me. Why now? Why did he have my back for 10 years just to abandon me in a sec? I was heartbroken. I'm not gonna lie, it was a very dark period in my life. I only got through it due to my loving family and friends, who supported me through every step of healing. It took me a very long time to trust again. I stayed single for almost 4 years. Then about a year ago, I met my current boyfriend. I really thought I'm not able to trust and love again, but he healed every inch of my heart. He is just the sweetest and funniest guy on earth. 2 weeks ago, my ex contacted me on Facebook with a fake account. He gave me a long apology for the way he treated me and said he never stopped loving me, blah blah blah. I called BS and told him to not waste my time and to just spill the beans. He told me that he couldn't have children, and his wife divorced him because she wanted biological kids. In his culture, most people won't adopt. And he remembered that I always wanted to adopt. He then told me that we can finally be together, since his parents know that it would be hard to find a woman from their culture who doesn't want bio children. Suddenly, they're all over the moon for us getting back together. I simply wrote back, I'm in a happy relationship and don't want you in my life. After the way you treated me, I have absolutely no empathy left for you. You deserve to be alone. I don't want to waste more time and start my own family. And since you're not capable of giving me children, it's good that you're gone. I blocked him after that. His sister called me a few days later and told me that my ex is really hurt about what I said and to please give him another chance to explain himself. I told her that I really don't care about him anymore and to never contact me again. But after I calmed down, I kinda regret using his sterility against him. Anger got the best of me in that moment. I just wanted to be done with him as fast as possible, and to be honest, I wanted to hurt him like it had hurt me. But now I kinda regret it. My boyfriend says he deserved it, but he loves me and might be biased. Same with my family and friends. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Your anger is definitely understandable. He blew it when he let his parents and culture decide his love life. Do his parents not lose face if he remains a bachelor? And he's got some nerve reaching out after 5 years and treating you like a backup plan. However, you could have taken the high road and simply said, no, you hurt me terribly, and it took me a long time to heal from it. I've moved on with another man, and I have zero interest in going back. I suggest you move on with a new woman who accepts you. And this time, don't let your family or culture break you up. Also, I don't like what his reaching out is doing to me. I fought really hard to get over him, and now he has the audacity to come back and open old wounds? I was in such a good place, and now I just feel angry. That he came back just shows that he never cared about me in the first place. I love my new boyfriend, and I would never get back with ex. I'm still angry though. Sounds all understandable how you reacted. It might be a good idea to check in with a coach or therapist. Him leaving the first time around caused you trauma. A few chats can make you sure you grow past it. He sounds like he's not worth the anger it's causing. I saw a coach for that matter after we broke up. I have an appointment with him next week. Honestly, the comments and support here, as well as just writing everything down, helped me to realize that I don't need to feel guilty. I'm happy that I dodged a bullet. Not a-hole. What did he expect? That you would be sitting around waiting for him to change his mind or something? He deserves every word you said, and then some. Hopefully you and your current boyfriend are happy and prosperous in your life together. Put your past behind you and live your best life. It is truly the best revenge. That's exactly what he thought. Because in his deluded mind, he is God's gift to all women, and the world revolves around him. He needed a harsh and brutal reality check, and Opie gave him one. He got so hurt by the truth that his sister had to step in and call Opie. His whole family are beyond pathetic, and desperate to get him married off face up before their conservative community and family members finds out he's infertile. The audacity of him and his disgusting family to think there is even a small chance that Opie leaves her boyfriend to marry an infertile man. You were not the a-hole. You were actually too nice to him. There is no excuse for a 30-year-old man living in 21st century Europe to do this to love of his life because his parents would not approve her. It was pathetic and selfish then, but it is over the roof now. So he and his sister are on Facebook? Personally, I would vent about all of it in an open Facebook post. Without holding back my words, it would bring me closure. And of course, I want to tag them both, and whoever else I want to tag. Thank you so much for your idea. It really made me laugh. But I don't want to give him any further attention. I don't want him to know that his sudden message opened up an old wound. I'd rather let him know that I don't care about him at all. I just want to move on with my life and be happy. Now for the first update. First of all, thank you so much for your kind words and really thoughtful input. You have no idea how much it's helped me. So today my ex-boyfriend and his sister showed up at my door. I really didn't want to let them in, but my boyfriend told me that I maybe need to hear what they have to tell me to close this chapter of my life. So I let them in. My boyfriend went to our bedroom to give us room to talk, but he said I should call him if I needed him. My ex and his sister told me that their parents arranged a marriage for him 10 years ago with his ex-wife. Arranged marriages are apparently pretty common in his culture. He told me that he didn't want to marry her, but his parents guilt-tripped him into marrying her. They told him that the whole family would lose face if he doesn't oblige, and to think about his sisters. Who's gonna marry them if the family reputation is destroyed? He basically agreed into this marriage to protect the family reputation. His sister also apologized for blocking me. She told me that her parents had threatened her that they will cut all financial support if she ever had contact with me again. She was 19 and a student at that time, so I honestly understand and don't hold a grudge against her. I told her that as well. She told me that she started dating a man from another culture 3 years ago. Her parents basically put her through the same nonsense as they did with my ex. But she told them that she will not allow them to destroy her life, like they destroyed the life of my ex. She cut all contact with her family except for my ex. She then told me that he put her through college, maybe to show me that he is a good guy after all. At this point, my ex started crying. He told me that he is so sorry. When his sister cut contact, he thought about getting a divorce and begged me for forgiveness, but he was sure that I wouldn't take him back. He said that he never loved his ex-wife and that he only ever loved me and that he still loves me. He also cut contact with his parents a few days ago. He told me that he is very sorry for what happened and that he will try the rest of his life to make it up to me if I just give him one more chance and many more stuff. I just let him talk. Honestly, seeing him after all that time, I thought that I would be enraged or cry or that meeting him would bring some emotion into the surface. Really, anything. I was really surprised. I was completely calm and I felt no deep feelings towards him. It was like a stranger was telling me a story. Of course, I felt sorry for him, but all that hurt and anger that I felt after his message was completely gone. After he finished, I apologized for holding his sterility against him. Then I told him that although I'm really sorry how his life went, there is absolutely no chance in getting back together. I told him that he is and will be my past, and that I don't want any further contact. That I love my boyfriend from the bottom of my heart, and that he is my future. He started crying more but said that he understands and wished me luck. His sister said that she would be happy to stay in contact. I told her that I'm really proud of her, that she had the courage to stand up against her parents, and that I wish her all the best in life. But I also think that some connections should stay in the past. She was sad, but also very understanding. She hugged me before they left and wished me a happy life with my boyfriend. It sounded sincere. Honestly, I'm happy that they showed up. It kinda helped me to get closure. And it showed me how lucky I am to have my boyfriend. Glad to hear this. It took your ex years to do what his sister did. He just cut off his parents a few days ago. He chose not to fight for you, and now that he is damaged goods and divorced, he was willing to come back to you. You were right to close that chapter of your life. May you have a wonderful life with your boyfriend. His sister would probably not been able to do so if she had not witnessed her brother's story before. It is unfair to compare siblings in every way, but specifically when it comes to dealing with a toxic family. There are studies on the matter that shows that as the older sibling always try to stay on track to comply to parents' BS because he cannot know better, the younger ones can realize that following the rules doesn't guarantee a good outcome, and so are more rebellious. It is thanks to her big brother's unfortunate turn of events in his love life that she knew better than listen to her parents. So when he thought he could have kids and actively trying to have kids, he was sure you wouldn't take him back. But now when he knows he is sterile, he was sure you will take him back? And his explanation for ghosting you was that no one will marry sisters in the 21st century Europe if he doesn't sacrifice himself to another woman? And what was his reason for not telling you all of this drama then, other than the lack of basic decency? Your ex is a very interesting guy. Yes, I dodged a bullet. I'm so happy that it didn't last. I feel really sorry for him. I hate these family-centered cultures that think parents have the right to arrange and control every aspect of their children's lives and make it so hard and guilt-riddled for the children to free themselves and live their own lives and make their own choices. But for you and him, it was simply too late. He completely destroyed your trust, not just by leaving you, but by how he left you. Maximum amount of pain and betrayal, zero amount of explanation, empathy, or any real effort to mitigate the damage. I'm glad you got closure, and I hope he'll be able to move on too. and I hope their parents die miserable and alone and cut off from all of their offspring. I know now that the breakup was the best thing that happened to me. He was my first love, and I missed so many red flags. Now that I know how a healthy relationship looks like, I would never go back to that. I hope that he also finds closure and happiness. Oh, what were the red flags that you missed, if I may ask, apart from his bullying family? It's just that in your first post, you described him like he had been close to perfect. Well, we were together for 10 years, and he didn't propose because his parents were not ready. We didn't try for children because his parents were not accepting of us. Although he stood up for me when they said something mean, he really never acted towards building a future together, like proposing, for example. I just realized that he actually always put his parents' needs before mine. I was just so blind. He basically showed me again and again that he wouldn't choose me. Now for the last update. Hi guys, it's been a few weeks after my last post, and I just wanted to give you a small update about my life because you guys helped me so much. My boyfriend proposed on our anniversary some weeks ago, and I said yes. So we are going to marry at the end of September in a small ceremony, with only our family and a small group of friends. I'm also pregnant with our first child. Life couldn't be better right now, and sometimes I'm still afraid that it's just a dream. As for my ex, I ran into his sister today while shopping. We went for a coffee and she congratulated me. She told me that my ex already told her that I'm pregnant. Apparently, my sister posted a picture of my ultrasound on IG with a caption, "Can't wait to meet you." I don't use IG, so I wasn't aware of it. She told me that he had a meltdown and wanted to contact me and fight for my love. She told him to move on, since I'm obviously happy, and to not cause any issues. She told me that he was hurt by her words, but he knew that she is right, so he didn't contact me. I'm so thankful for her thoughtfulness. We chatted a bit more and then went our separate ways. I really hope that he finds happiness someday. I, for myself, decided that it's not healthy to hold grudges. I'm focusing on our baby and just being happy with my fiancé.